feast on Yahweh's Holy Sabbath Day, and this is a Sabbath, a special Sabbath. We have, of course, had back-to-back Sabbaths today, dealing with the first day of Tabernacles. This Feast of Booths begins with a Sabbath and ends with a Sabbath. This is also the day that all males make their appearance before Yahweh. When we deal with what the tabernacling is all about, there is a reason why all the other days must take place first. The things of atonement, which is in that same seventh month, all of those things have to be dealt with, and then you can tabernacle in peace. So these things happen in this order for a reason, so that certain things can be dealt with before you get to this whole situation of tabernacling. And there is the natural tabernacle that we deal with, but then there's a spiritual part of tabernacling that is something that we all hope to be a part of. Let's begin tonight in Leviticus chapter 23, and we're going to read verses 33 through 44.
Verse 33. And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, The 15th day of this 7th month shall be the Feast of Tabernacles for 7 days unto Yah.
So then Yahweh has his creation. He has set up the 7th day as this day of rest, the day that he rested, the day that he finished his work. And then when you deal with all of the things of the holy days, they are then completed in the 7th month. This 7 is a picture of holiness. There's a reason why we have 7 golden candlesticks. You have, 7 going all throughout. Go ahead.
On the first day shall be an holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein. 7 days you shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yah. On the 8th day shall be an holy convocation unto you, and you shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yah. It is a solemn assembly, and you shall do no servile work therein.
Servile work is work that we get paid for. Go ahead.
These are the feast of Yahweh, which you shall proclaim to be holy convocations, to offer an offering made by fire unto Yah, a burnt offering and a meat offering, a sacrifice and drink offerings, everything upon his day. Besides the Sabbaths of Yah, and besides your gifts, and beside all your vows, and beside all your freewill offerings, which you give unto Yah, also in the 15th day of the 7th month, when you have gathered in the fruit of the land, you shall keep a feast unto Yah 7 days. On the first day shall be a Sabbath, and on the 8th day shall be a Sabbath.
So when you look at this, this is verse 38, beside the Sabbaths of Yahweh. So this has absolutely nothing to do with any of the other Sabbaths that your weekly Sabbath that is going to come. These particular days, no matter where they fall, they end up becoming a Sabbath. And then you have verse 39, also in the 15th day of the 7th month, when you have gathered in the fruit of your land. Right around this time, what you find in a lot of Christian churches is they will have harvest festivals. So you'll see a whole lot of things. And what that ends up doing to us is a lot of times our people, we label that as a pagan thing, and we won't deal with it. This is harvest. So if somebody decided that they were going to say, okay, we're going to keep the harvest, that's exactly what this is. What happens is that just gives them the opportunity to say that they're dealing with the harvest without acknowledging the Feast of Tabernacles and what it is. But that's exactly what this is. So you're going to go past churches and you're going to see, this stuff about the harvest. The problem is they're going to have a pumpkin out there, and stuff like that. But, it is the harvest thing. This is the time when you gather in the fruit of your land and then you rejoice at that point. So the other churches are doing it. They're just not really telling you that that's what that is. Go ahead.
Verse 40, And you shall take you on the first day the boughs of goodly trees, branches of palm trees, and the boughs of thick trees, and willows of the brook. And you shall rejoice before Yahweh your Elohim 7 days. And you shall keep it a feast unto Yah 7 days in the year. It shall be a statute forever in your generations. You shall celebrate it in the 7th month. You shall dwell in booths 7 days. All that are Israelite born shall dwell in booths.
Right. When you examine the children of Israel coming out of Egypt, they had to dwell in these booths or these tents. This journey was should have been concluded in 2 weeks. It ended up taking 40 years. And typically what Yahweh has to do a lot of times is do away with the old generation, because the old generation is already stuck in their ways. And they want to do the things the way they want to do them. And they really don't want to hear any change. So Yahweh just held everybody out there and let the younger generation come and let them walk in, because the younger generation could take instruction. Go ahead.
That your generations may know that I made the children of Israel to dwell in booths when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. I am Yahweh, your Elohim. And Moshe declared unto the children of Israel the feasts of Yahweh.
So he declared unto the children of Israel these feasts. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 16. Deuteronomy chapter 16, and let's read verses 13 through 17.
You shall observe the Feast of Tabernacles 7 days. After that you have gathered in your corn and your wine. And you shall rejoice in your feast, you and your son and your daughter and your manservant and your maidservant and the Levite, the stranger and the fatherless and the widow that are within your gates.
That are within your gates. Once again, you shall observe the Feast of Tabernacles 7 days after you have gathered in your corn and your wine. So it is the same thing that you will see where they're celebrating their harvest. The issue is they're just not doing the rest of the things that Yahweh has ordained for that time. Go ahead.
7 days you shall keep a solemn feast unto Yahweh your Elohim in the place which Yahweh shall choose. Because Yahweh your Elohim shall bless you in all your increase, and in all the works of your hands. Therefore you shall surely rejoice.
Right. So then this is why these things are brought. You are then showing honor unto Yahweh because of the things that he has produced during that year for the children of Israel. That gets a little cloudy for us because we don't have to grow our own food at this point in time. So those things, we kind of miss that. Go ahead.
3 times in a year shall all your males appear before Yahweh your Elohim in the place which he shall choose. In the feast of unleavened bread, and in the feast of weeks, and in the feast of tabernacles. And they shall not appear before Yahweh empty.
They shall not appear before Yahweh empty. Every man shall give as he is able. Go ahead.
According to the blessing of Yah, your Elohim, which he has given you.
According to the blessing that Yahweh has given you. When you start looking at when the masses start dealing with some of these days, they will tell the people just how much of a seed they need to sow. And according to what's written, no one can tell you exactly how much you should bring. That is supposed to be according to as Yahweh has blessed you. Let's go to Zechariah chapter 14. Zechariah chapter 14, and we're going to start that at verse 1.
Behold, the day of Yahweh comes, and your spoil shall be divided in the midst of you. For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city shall be taken, and the houses rifled, and the women ravished. And half of the city shall go forth into captivity, and the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city.
Right. And we can go in the book of Matthew and read the same thing. Go ahead.
Then shall Yahweh go forth and fight against those nations as when he fought in the day of battle. And his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives, which is before Jerusalem on the east. And the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof toward the east and toward the west. And there shall be a very great valley, and half of the mountain shall remove toward the north, and half toward the south. And you shall flee to the valley of the mountains, for the valley of the mountains shall reach unto Esau. Yea, you shall flee, like as you fled from before the earthquake in the days of Uzziah, king of Yehudah. And Yahweh my Elohim shall come, and all the saints with you. And it shall come to pass in that day, that the light shall not be clear nor dark, but it shall be one day, which shall be known to Yahweh, not day nor night. But it shall come to pass that at evening time it shall be light. And it shall be in that day that living waters shall go out from Jerusalem, half of them toward the former sea, and half of them toward the hinder sea. In summer and in winter shall it be. And Yahweh shall be king over all the earth. In that day there shall be one Yahweh, and his name one.
Right. So he's going to take care of all that he has many names thing. Go ahead.
All the land shall be turned as a plain from Geba to Ramon, south of Jerusalem. And it shall be lifted up and inhabited in her place, from Benjamin's gate onto the place of the first gate, onto the corner gate, and from the tower of Hananeel onto the king's wine presses.
Right. So when we deal with these things, we're talking about these tribes have gates. There's order set up in the city. Go ahead.
And men shall dwell in it, and there shall be no more utter destruction, but Jerusalem shall be safely inhabited.
Jerusalem shall be safely inhabited. Go ahead.
And this shall be the plague wherewith Yahweh will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth. And it shall come to pass in that day that a great tumult from Yahweh shall be among them, and they shall lay hold every one on the hand of his neighbor, and his hand shall rise up against the hand of his neighbor. And Yehudah also shall fight at Jerusalem, and the wealth of all the heathen round about shall be gathered together, gold and silver and apparel in great abundance.
Right. Yehudah shall also fight at Jerusalem. Even though Yahweh give you something, you still got to work for it. Go ahead.
And so shall be the plague of the horse, of the mule, of the camel, and of the ass, and of all the beasts that shall be in these tents, as this plague. And it shall come to pass that every one that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the king.
And it shall come to pass that everyone that is left of all the nations. So we're talking about a lot of blood that's going to have to be shed. So now, instead of dealing with anything else, he's dealing with what's left. Go ahead.
Yahweh of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. And it shall be that whoso will not come up of all the families of the earth unto Jerusalem to worship the king, Yahweh of hosts, even upon them shall be no rain.
Right. So they won't be able to skip this Feast of Tabernacles, because you have this situation where all those nations have to come and make their appearance, and all of them have to come and make an offering unto Yahweh. These are the things that are going to sustain the children of Israel. Go ahead.
And if the family of Egypt go not up, and come not, that have no rain, there shall be the plague, wherewith Yahweh will smite the heathen that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. This shall be the punishment of Egypt, and the punishment of all nations that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. In that day shall there be upon the bells of the horses holiness unto Yahweh, and the pots in Yahweh's house shall be like the bowls before the altar. Yea, every pot in Jerusalem and in Yehudah shall be holiness unto Yahweh of hosts. And all they that sacrifice shall come and take of them, and seed therein. And in that day there shall be no more the Canaanite in the house of Yahweh of hosts.
All right. Now let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 31. So we see that this is a vision of the kingdom to come, and all nations have to partake in this Feast of Tabernacles. But people will say, well, these things are, some Old Testament things that you're dealing with. Yet we're talking about this holy, righteous kingdom to come, and they're still keeping Yahweh's holy days. Deuteronomy chapter 31, and let's read verses 9 through 13.
And Moshe wrote this law and delivered it unto the priests, the sons of Levi, which bear the ark of the covenant of Yahweh, and unto all the elders of Israel. And Moshe commanded them, saying, at the end of every 7 years, in the solemnity of the year of release, in the Feast of Tabernacles, when all Israel is come to appear before Yahweh your Elohim in the place which he shall choose, you shall read this law before all Israel in their hearing.
Right. So then when you go into that, then you have to see certain things. He says, at the end of every 7 years, in the solemnity of the year of release, in the Feast of Tabernacles, you're going to go through this law. So you have this situation of tabernacling where these people are gathered together, men, women, and children, then have this thing where they then go over this law, because to be able to truly tabernacle in peace, we have to understand Yahweh's law, especially when we get to the righteousness part of tabernacling. Go ahead.
Gather the people together, men and women and children, and your stranger that is within your gates, that they may hear, and that they may learn, and fear Yahweh your Elohim, and observe to do all the words of this law.
And observe to do all the words of this law. Go ahead.
And that their children, which have not known anything, may hear and learn to fear Yahweh your Elohim, as long as you live in the land, whether you go over Jordan to possess it.
Right. So then this then is set forth so that there's a constant situation where the understanding of this law is being reinforced. It's being reinforced over and over so that we understand the culture of Yahweh our Elohim. Let's go to Acts chapter 18. Acts chapter 18, and let's read verses 1 through 15.
Verse 1. After these things, Saul departed from Athens and came to Corinth, and found a certain Yehudi named Aquila, born in Pontus, lately come from Italy, with his wife Priscilla, because that Claudius had commanded all Yehudis to depart from Rome, and came unto them. And because he was of the same craft, he abode with them, and wrought, for by their occupation they were tent makers. And he reasoned in the synagogue every Sabbath, and persuaded the Yehudis and the Greeks.
And he reasoned in the synagogue every Sabbath. So reasoning together out of the word means that we have to reason from a common ground, not reason from what we think, feel, and believe. Because all of us are going to feel something. All of us are going to think something. And all of us are going to believe something. So we can't reason from that point. We have to reason from what's written. Go ahead.
And when Silas and Timotheus were come from Macedonia, Saul was pressed in the spirit, and testified to the Yehudis that Yahshua was the anointed one. And when they opposed themselves and blasphemed, he shook his raiment, and said unto them, Your blood be upon your own heads. I am clean. From henceforth I will go unto the Gentiles. And he departed thence, and entered into a certain man's house named Justus, one that worshipped Elohim, whose house joined hard to the synagogue.
And this situation presented itself. He says, I will go unto the Gentiles. He had absolutely no luck dealing with the children of Israel, but that's where he was supposed to be. So the rest of the situations presented itself, so it pushed him to where he was supposed to be. Go ahead.
And Crispus, the chief ruler of the synagogue, believed on the Adonai with all his house, and many of the Corinthians hearing believed, and were baptized. Then spake the Adonai to Saul in the night by a vision, Be not afraid, but speak, and hold not your peace. For I am with you, and no man shall set on you to hurt you, for I have much people in this city. And he continued there 1 year and 6 months, teaching the word of Elohim among them. And when Gallio was the deputy of Achaia, the Yehudis made insurrection with one accord against Saul, and brought him to the judgment seat, saying, This fellow persuade men to worship Elohim contrary to the law. And when Saul was now about to open his mouth, Gallio said unto the Yehudis, If it were a matter of wrong or wicked lewdness, O you Yehudis, reason would that I should bear with you. But if it be a question of words and names and of your law, look you to it.
Right. He didn't want to have nothing to do with that. He said, if this is something concerning your law, y'all deal with it. If it's something that has something to do with this natural law, then we'll deal with it. But don't bring me that stuff that's got something to do with y'all stuff. I don't know y'all stuff. Y'all need to deal with y'all stuff. Go ahead.
For I'll be no judge of such matters.
Read the definition here on the next graphic.
Reason, dialogomy, middle voice, from Greek 1223 and G 3004, to say thoroughly, that is, discuss, in argument or exhortation.
So even if it's an argument or exhortation, it is the discuss, to reason about something. Go ahead.
Dispute, preach onto, reason with, speak.
All right, let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 12. First Samuel chapter 12, and let's start that at verse 1.
Verse 1. And Samuel said unto all Israel, Behold, I have hearkened unto your voice and all that you said unto me, and have made a king over you. And now, behold, the king walks before you, and I am old and gray-headed, and, behold, my sons are with you. And I have walked before you from my childhood unto this day. Behold, here I am. Witness against me before Yahweh, and before his anointed. Whose ox have I taken? Or whose ass have I taken? Or whom have I defrauded? Whom have I oppressed? Or of whose hand have I received any bribe to blind mine eyes therewith? And I will restore it you.
In other words, produce your cause. Go ahead.
And they said, You have not defrauded us, nor oppressed us, neither have you taken aught of any man's hand. And he said unto them, Yahweh is witness against you, and his anointed is witness this day, that you have not found aught in my hand. And they answered, He is witness. And Samuel said unto the people, It is Yahweh that advanced Moshe and Aaron, and that brought your fathers up out of the land of Egypt. Now therefore stand still, that I may reason with you before Yahweh of all the righteous acts of Yahweh, which he did to you and to your fathers. When Jacob was come into Egypt, and your fathers cried unto Yah, then Yahweh sent Moshe and Aaron, which brought forth your fathers out of Egypt, and made them dwell in this place. And when they forgot Yahweh their Elohim, he sold them into the hand of Sisera, captain of the host of Hazar, and into the hand of the Philistines, and into the hand of the king of Moab, and they fought against them. And they cried unto Yahweh, and he said, verse 10, And they cried unto Yahweh, and said, We have sinned, because we have forsaken Yahweh, and have served Baalim and Ashtaroth. But now deliver us out of the hand of our enemies, and we will serve you.
These are the same things that ended up happening in Israel over and over and over again. Go ahead.
And Yahweh sent Jerubbaal, and Bedan, and Jephthah, and Samuel, and delivered you out of the hand of your enemies on every side, and you dwelt safe. And when you saw that Nahash, the king of the children of Ammon, came against you, you said unto me, No, but a king shall reign over us, when Yahweh your Elohim was your king. Now Now therefore behold the king whom you have chosen, and whom you have desired, and behold, Yahweh has set a king over you. If you will fear Yahweh, and serve him, and obey his voice, and not rebel against the commandment of Yah, then shall both you and also the king that reigns over you continue following Yahweh your Elohim.
Listen, if you will fear Yahweh and serve him, and obey his voice, and not rebel against the commandment of Yahweh, then shall both you and also your king that reigns over you continue in following Yahweh your Elohim. Go ahead.
But if you will not obey the voice of Yahweh, but rebel against the commandment of Yahweh, then shall the hand of Yahweh be against you, as it was against your fathers. Now therefore stand and see this great thing, which Yahweh will do before your eyes. Is it not wheat harvest today? I will call unto Yahweh, and he shall send thunder and rain, that you may perceive and see that your wickedness is great, which you have done in the sight of Yahweh, in asking you a king. So Samuel called unto Yahweh, and Yahweh sent thunder and rain that day. And all the people greatly feared Yahweh and Samuel.
All the people greatly feared Yahweh and Samuel when they saw the power of what happened. Go ahead.
And all the people said unto Samuel, Pray for your servants unto Yahweh your Elohim, that we die not, for we have added unto all our sins this evil, to ask us a king. And Samuel said unto the people, Fear not, you have done all this wickedness, yet turn not aside from following Yahweh, but serve Yahweh with all your heart.
Right. This is him reasoning with them. Go ahead.
And turn you not aside, for then should you go after vain things which cannot profit nor deliver, for they are vain. For Yahweh will not forsake his people for his great name's sake, because it has pleased Yahweh to make you his people. Moreover, as for me, Elohim forbid that I should sin against Yahweh in ceasing to pray for you, but I will teach you the good and the right way.
Moreover, as for me, Elohim forbid that I should sin against Yahweh in ceasing to pray for you, but I will teach you the good and right way. That don't mean they're going to follow it. Go ahead.
Only fear Yahweh and serve him in truth with all your heart, for consider how great things he has done for you. But if you shall still do wickedly, you shall be consumed, both you and your king.
But if you shall do wickedly, you know, when you look at it, you look and think all of the problems were just the kings. But the children of Israel operated in a way that also caused Yahweh to stand against them. Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 6.
First Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 1. Dare any of you, having a matter against another, go to law before the unjust and not before the saints? Do you not know that the saints shall judge the world? And if the world shall be judged by you, are you unworthy to judge the smallest matters?
Right. When you look at this, the children of Israel will be the ones that have to deal with all of these things. Dare any of you, having a matter against another, go to law before the unjust and not before the saints? There's an order. The order, love starts at home first and then is spread abroad. So if you got a matter, you deal with the matter inside your house. Then you deal with the matter inside Yahweh's house. Then you go outside Yahweh's house and deal with any heathen. You don't skip your house and Yahweh's house and go to the heathen. Even if the heathen has great power. You have forgotten to sanctify yourself to Yahweh. You deal with all of the things of Yahweh first, then you deal with the things outside of Yahweh's house. Go ahead.
Know you not that we shall judge angels? How much more things that pertain to this life? If then you have judgment of things pertaining to this life, set them to judge who are least esteemed in the church. I speak to your shame. Is it so that there's not a wise man among you? No, not one that shall be able to judge between his brethren. But brother goes to law with brother, and that before the unbelievers.
Right. We'll go to the unbeliever before we go to the people in the word. And the word says absolutely the opposite. Deal with all of the things contained in the word before you go outside his house. Instead of talking to us, we'll go straight to the man. And feel like we justified because that's what we saw on TV. Go ahead.
Now, therefore, there is utterly a fault among you, because you go to law one with another. Why do you not rather take wrong? Why do you not rather suffer yourselves to be defrauded? No, you do wrong and defraud, and that your brethren. Know you not that the unrighteous shall not inherit the kingdom of Elohim? Be not deceived. Neither fornicators, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor effeminate, nor abusers of themselves with mankind, nor thieves, nor covetous, nor drunkards, nor revelers, nor extortioners shall inherit the kingdom of Elohim. And such were some of you, but you are washed, but you are sanctified, but you are justified in the name of the Adonai Yahshua and by the Spirit of our Elohim.
All right, let's go to Matthew chapter 18. See, when we talk about the things that are going to have to happen in a righteous tabernacling, it's more than just building a booth and hanging out. See, we got a spiritual tabernacling that is supposed to last 1,000 years. Well, we're going to have to operate in that tabernacling a certain way, not according to what we think, feel, and believe. If we're going to reason together out of what's written. And in everywhere we've been, we always had unbelievers amongst us. We had unbelievers right amongst our holy temple. So we couldn't skip all of that and then go to the unbeliever. Go ahead, brother. Matthew 18, and let's start at verse 15.
Moreover, if your brother shall trespass against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. If he shall hear you, you have gained your brother. But if he will not hear you, then take with you one or two more, that in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every word may be established.
Moreover, if your brother shall trespass against you, if you believe that your brother has done something against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. Go ahead.
And if he shall neglect to hear them, tell it on to the church.
All right, so then there's a process that's supposed to follow. When it goes outside the process, we have disrupted the tabernacle. There's a process, because now even the peace process is broken. Moreover, if your brother shall trespass against you, your brother has done wrong. How does he know unless you tell him, all right, this is exactly what I feel like was done wrong. Now let's reason together out of what's written in the book. Go ahead.
And that's the key word. What you feel, is it in this book that we can reason out of this book?
And that's,
or is it just your feelings?
Right. But that's the whole thing. Once you bring it up, now we can reason together out of the book, and let's see where the wrong was done. Let's see where we can either back up and fix it. But we can't fix it if I got an issue with Eliel, but I'm talking to you. How many Eliel gonna fix it? Go ahead.
But if he neglect to hear the church, let him be unto you as an heathen man and a publican.
So we don't just go to the church. We go to the brother. Then we take a witness. Then we go to the church. Go ahead.
Verily I say unto you, whatsoever you shall bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever you shall loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Again I say unto you, that if 2 of you shall agree on earth as touching anything that they shall ask, it shall be done for them of my Father which is in heaven. For where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them.
All right, let's go to Yohanan chapter 6. John chapter 6. John chapter 6, and we're going to start that at verse 26.
Verse 26. Yahshua answered them and said, Verily, verily, I say unto you, you seek me, not because you saw the miracles, but because you did eat of the loaves and were filled. Labor not for the meat which perish, but for that meat which endures unto everlasting life, which the Son of Man shall give unto you. For him has Elohim the Father sealed. Then said they unto him, What shall we do, that we might work the works of Elohim? Yahshua answered and said unto them, This is the work of Elohim, that you believe on him whom he hath sent.
This is the work of Elohim, that you believe on him whom he has sent. If you believe, then there's certain things that you do. Go ahead.
They said therefore unto him, What sign show you then, that we may see and believe you? What does you work? Our fathers did eat manna in the desert, and as it is written, he gave them bread from heaven to eat. Then Yahshua said unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, Moshe gave you not that bread from heaven, but my Father gives you the true bread from heaven.
Now, you have to pay attention to the first part that was said, or you kind of miss why Yahshua is going in this manner. They said, what sign showeth you us then, that we may see and believe you? See, signs are not for believers, signs are for unbelievers. So they ask for a sign, and he basically gives them the opposite of a sign. He gives them the thing that basically causes them to take off running. Go ahead.
For the bread of Elohim is he which comes down from heaven and gives life unto the world. Then said they unto him, Adonai, evermore give us this bread. And Yahshua said unto them, I am the bread of life. He that comes to me shall never hunger, and he that believes on me shall never thirst. But I said unto you, that you also have seen me and believe not. All that the Father gives me shall come to me, and him that comes to me I will in no wise cast out. For I am come down from heaven, not to do mine own will, but the will of him that sent me. And this is the Father's will which has sent me, that of all which he has given me I should lose nothing, but should raise it up again at the last day. And this is the will of him that sent me, that every one which sees the Son of Man and believes on him may have everlasting life, and I'll raise him up at the last day.
So understand now, these are the same ones that want to ask for a sign, and then he starts giving this stuff, which is very difficult to digest. Go ahead.
The Yehudis then murmured at him, because he said, I am the bread which came down from heaven.
Right, they're asking for a sign, and he says, I'm the bread that came down from heaven. Wait a minute now. You giving me the opposite of what I asked for. Go ahead.
And they said, Is not this Yahshua, the son of Yosef?
Right, how you come down from heaven, man? You from over there. We asked you for a sign, and the sign you giving us, this ain't working out. Go ahead.
Whose father and mother we know? How is it then that he says, I came down from heaven? Yahshua therefore answered and said unto them, Murmur not among yourselves. No man can come to me, except the Father which has sent me draw him, and I will raise him up at the last day. It is written in the prophets, and they shall be all taught of Elohim. Every man therefore that has heard and has learned of the Father comes on to me. Not that any man has seen the Father, save he which is of Elohim, he has seen the Father. Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that believes on me has everlasting life. I am the bread of life. Your fathers did eat manna in the wilderness and are dead. This is the bread which comes down from heaven, that a man may eat thereof and not die.
So he's saying once again, on a whole nother level, this is the bread which comes down from heaven, that a man may eat thereof and not die. They're not able to receive this so-called sign. They ask for a sign, and everything that he's saying is causing a deeper problem. Go ahead.
I am the living bread which came down from heaven. If any man eat of this bread, he shall live forever. And the bread that I will give is my flesh, which I will give for the life of the world.
Right. This sign is getting worse and worse and worse. Go ahead.
The Yehudis therefore strove among themselves, saying, How can this man give us his flesh to eat?
So first they already had a problem. What are you talking about? He came down from heaven. Now he's talking about he's going to give us his flesh to eat.
I don't understand what this man talking about. We asked for a sign, and I'm not feeling very signage right now. Go ahead.
Then Yahshua said unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, except you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you have no life in you.
So he's just going on level after level after level of ticking these people off. They are looking for a sign. Do a miracle. All right? Make fire come down out of heaven. You know? Make the fish stand up and walk. Do something. What he does is start purposely ticking the people off. But everybody love Yahshua though. Right. Go ahead.
Whoso eats my flesh and drinks my blood has eternal life, and I'll raise him up at the last day. For my flesh is meat indeed, and my blood is drink indeed. He that eats my flesh and drinks my blood dwells in me, and I in him.
Right. So now he's giving with some little vampire type stuff here. So they are really, really upset. These are the same people. Now they're looking for a sign. You got to think what the original thing was as you keep reading. You cannot forget about that. Go ahead.
As the living Father has sent me, and I live by the Father, so he that eats me, even he shall live by me.
Ooh.
This is that bread which came down from heaven, not as your fathers did eat manna, and are dead. He that eats of this bread shall live forever.
All of this is in red writing. All right. This is Yahshua. This is the one that everybody say that they love. Okay. And this is the most provocative stuff you have ever heard in your life, especially these people during this time. I mean, they are exceptionally appalled. Go ahead.
These things said he in the synagogue as he taught in Capernaum.
Okay, and yeah, he was in the church when he said it. Go ahead.
Many therefore of his disciples, when they had heard this, said, This is an hard saying. Who can hear it? When Yahshua knew in himself that his disciples murmured at it, he said unto them, Does this offend you?
So now he's going on a whole nother level. So now they're starting to pull away from him. They said, look, I can't listen to this man. Go ahead.
What and if you shall see the Son of Man ascend up where he was before?
What if I show you something even more powerful than what it is you asking? Go ahead.
It is the Spirit that quickens, the flesh profits nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life. But there are some of you that believe not. For Yahshua knew from the beginning who they were that believed not, and who should betray him. And he said, Therefore said I unto you, that no man can come unto me, except it were given unto him of my Father. From that time, many of his disciples went back and walked no more with him.
From that time, many of the disciples went back and walked no more. They said, I am done. I can't deal with any of the sayings that's coming out of this man's mouth. Then he get down the road and explain what the bread is. He explained what the blood is. Eat this bread, drink this wine. But he purposely said that so he can draw out everybody whose heart wasn't right. He purposely said that. He purposely did it. So everybody whose heart wasn't right, they can go on about their business. People say, no, Yahweh wouldn't do that. Well, he did it. Go ahead.
Then said Yahshua unto the 12, Will you also go away?
Then he pokes at the ones that are left. And if you read, there was 70. That's a pretty big percentile drop. From 70 to 12. That percentile don't look too hot. 70 to 12, man, you just lost your whole flock. He said, right. Now I got just what I need. Go ahead.
Then Simeon Peter answered him, Adonai, to whom shall we go? You have the words of eternal life.
Right. Now, these are not scholars that are left. These dudes like fishermen, people he picked up along the way. The smart people left. ones with the Spirit was the one that was left. Man, you got the words of life. Where we going? Go ahead.
And we believe and are sure that you are that Mashiach, the Son of the living Elohim. Yahshua answered them, have not I chosen you 12, and one of you is a devil?
Now, even in the 12, there's still a devil left in that. But he got a job to do. So you can't get rid of him. Go ahead.
He spake of Yehudas Iscariot, the son of Simeon, for he it was that should betray him, being one of the 12.
Right. So let's now go to Revelation chapter 20. And let us hear the conclusion of this matter. See, tabernacling is more than just setting up booths and having a good time. See, we got a righteous tabernacling that we're going to have to take part in. And this is our practice. But you play the game how you practice. If you practice sitting on the bench drinking all the Gatorade, when the game comes, that's where you're going to be, right there. Sitting right down that bench drinking all the Gatorade. When they do foul, call you in the game, you ain't going to be able to move. Your stomach full. You can hear the water move. You can hear everything move. Every step you take. Man, you can't even play the game, man. You've been sitting there drinking all the fluids. Revelation chapter 20. And let's read verses 1 through 15.
And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years.
Right. This is our sabbatical kingdom. This is the righteous part of tabernacling. This is why the tabernacles come at the end of the holy days. Go ahead.
And cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that he must be loosed a little season. And I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yahshua, and for the word of Elohim.
Right. Now, they suffered in their lives having not received all of the joy. Go ahead.
And which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands. And they lived and reigned with the Mashiach 1,000 years.
Right. This is the thing that we do not want to miss. This is the tabernacling that we cannot miss. You can't miss the 1,000-year tabernacling with Yahshua. There's something seriously wrong if we miss that one. But we got to practice on this one so we don't miss that one. We make all our mistakes here because we can't miss that one. You don't want to wake up after that. And you wake up and the tabernacling of 1,000 years already gone. Go ahead.
But the rest of the dead lived not again until the 1,000 years were finished.
Right. So there's gonna be some people that's gonna wake up pissed off. They missed the whole 1,000 years with the Mashiach. Talk about how they loved him and everything, and just missed him. Go ahead.
This is the first resurrection. Blessed and holy is he that has part in the first resurrection. On such the second death has no power. But they shall be priests of Elohim and of the Mashiach, and shall reign with him 1,000 years. And when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea.
Right. In verse 7, and when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison. The Sabbath over. Lucifer just got parole. Sabbath over. All that peace that was there, it gone now. He out. Go ahead.
And they went up on the breadth of the earth, and compassed the camp of the saints about, and the beloved city, And fire came down from Elohim out of heaven and devoured them. And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. And I saw a great white throne, and him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away, and there was found no place for them. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before Elohim, and the books were opened.
And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before Elohim, and the books were opened. There's the book of what's written, and then there's the book of what's written about you. And he gonna reason out of what's written in those two books. Go ahead.
And another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books, according to their works.
According to their works. So according to the deeds that we commit, then he's going to open up this book that gave us the instruction, not a book on what we think, feel, and believe. Because none of us can outfeel one another. Your feeling is always more personal to you than it is to anybody else. So of course it felt a certain way to you. But let's open the book and let's see how that coincides with what's written. Go ahead.
And the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them.
So all the ones coming out the grave, all these things that they about to celebrate, Halloween. Now, you're going to see that for real. Where they just come out the dead, just come out the ground. Dead people just walk out the water. Yeah, they're coming up for judgment. So while people are playing and having a good time talking about the Day of the Dead, no, here go Day of the Dead right here. Go ahead.
And they were judged every man according to their works. And death and the grave were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death.
This is the second death. So, of course, we want to be a part of that first resurrection. Go ahead.
And whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire.
Right. And that is the ultimate situation of tabernacle. And that is the one that we want to be a part of. This is why we want to figure out all of the things that we need to figure out, so that when it's time for this righteous tabernacles, that we do not miss that righteous tabernacle, and we can be there in that 1,000-year reign of the Mashiach. That is all that we're going to do for tonight. We are, let's give it, it's 9:21 now. We will, have you already put out the cloth?
Yeah, they're right there. I know where they're at.
Okay. So we will be making our appearance for all of those that are online at 9:31. It is 9:21 now. We'll be beginning making our appearance at 9:31. As it is written, all males must make an appearance, and no one can come empty. Don't matter if you don't bring but $1. No man can come empty before Yahweh, our Elohim, and all males must make an appearance. So it is 9:21. We will be beginning ours at 9:31. Go ahead. Okay, and if you, of course, pray, we always pray with our head uncovered, all the males. That's all that we're going to do for tonight. Enjoy your feast. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.